Ignition sequence start.
Good morning, and welcome to this look at the work underway inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The members of the Orbit 2 shift of flight controllers are monitoring station systems and working with the Expedition 65 crew members as they complete their first week together as a group of 7. Commander Aki Hoshide and his American, Russian, and French crewmates have been busy with their science research since saying goodbye to 4 crewmates last weekend and getting themselves organized for the next 5 months together in space.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Sandra Jones. This week, 4 humans successfully splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico after a nearly 6-month mission in space, and science abounds on the International Space Station.
Dragon, SpaceX on the big loop, all hooks open and nominal.
Current copies, we see separation.
On Sunday, May 2nd, SpaceX's Crew Dragon, carrying NASA astronauts Michael Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi returned to Earth, completing a successful splashdown at 2:56 a.m. Eastern Time off the coast of Panama City, Florida. Crew 1 is the first night splashdown of a U.S. spacecraft since Apollo 8 in 1968. This also marks the longest duration mission of a crewed American spacecraft to date. Back in space, the crew is keeping busy with science investigations and studies aboard the space station. One important investigation includes the continuing tissue chips in space studies. Tissue chips are small models of human organs containing multiple cell types, which behave similarly as they do in the body. These chips make it possible to identify safe and effective therapies like drugs or vaccines much more quickly than on Earth. The changes that occur in the human body during spaceflight resemble the onset and progression of aging and diseases on Earth, but happen more quickly in microgravity. Scientists can study tissue chips in space to model diseases that may take months or years to develop on Earth. But the science doesn't stop there. This week, NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough utilized Astrobee robotics to conduct research related to space debris. The experiment, named Relative Operations for Autonomous Maneuvers, or ROAM, demonstrates processes for a robotic craft to rendezvous with debris in space. Space debris can include objects like satellites that could be repaired or taken out of orbit. However, because many of these objects are tumbling, it makes rendezvous and docking challenging. ROAM uses the space station's Astrobee robots to observe and understand how targets tumble and uses this information to plan ways to safely reach them. This research could help address how space debris decreases the availability of safe orbits for satellites, including those critical for weather observation, climate monitoring, and communications on Earth. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Shane Kimbrough, Megan MacArthur, Aki Hoshide, and Thomas Pesquet flew the Crew Dragon Endeavour to the International Space Station. Before their launch, we brought them into the studio to test what they know about each other and what they think they know about each other as they looked forward to going to space together for 6 months.
Megan, intelligent, witty.
She's smart, knowledgeable, and she's brave.
Shane is thoughtful, but also a prankster.
Calm and smooth.
Aki, always smiling.
Competent, funny, and a good friend.
Thomas, extremely skilled and fun.
Thomas is gregarious.
Playing golf.
Baking.
I'd say French.
Japanese. I know Soichi answered it that way too.
Me. I have OCDs, so It's in my ballpark.
Well, I have good experience with Tama. He and I are very tidy, both of us. It's still, the jury's still out on Aki and Megan.
I'm relying on Shane's Army experience to keep us in shape up there.
Me.
Me?
Me, definitely.
Me. Because I always make them laugh for some reason.
Just enjoying life together in microgravity. It's such a special environment, and getting the chance to do that with Megan, Tama, and Aki is going to be very special. And of course, landing with them is going to be really exciting.
Karaoke night.
So just hanging out on the space station, working together, living together, spending some precious time with each other.
Aki.
Maybe me?
Well, I don't know, but pretty much all of them. I would say Megan has a great poker face. The rest of us were pretty bad.
Probably not me.
I think Shane would win in a foot race.
Tama.
That's a tough one. Shane runs every day, but I think Tama would be highly motivated to win, so it would be very close.
But we will have to figure that out. We'll have to try.
I don't know that. You'll have to ask them.
It turns out I'm an interrupter. I come from a talking people, so I have the tendency to interrupt.
I speak.
But I'm working on it. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you there? Let me just...
Like all International Space Station crew members, those who flew on Crew Dragon are test subjects in some of the onboard research, as scientists study how being in space impacts human health. And that includes studying how the crew members establish a routine for sleep, which is a key to their functioning to the best of their ability. In this demonstration video, astronaut Ricky Arnold talks about some of the problems with sleep in space, and he shows us how the astronauts overcome them.
Hi, my name is Ricky Arnold on the International Space Station. We get asked a lot, how do we sleep in space? And it's a great question because we all know how important a good night's sleep is. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, you can count on reduced cognitive function, poorer reaction times, and maybe just being a little grumpy. And up here in space, just like on Earth, those are things we all want to avoid. So, we go around the Earth about every 90 minutes, which means we get 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So how we sleep is a really good question, because the sun's always getting ready to come up or it's getting ready to set, and we use those cues on Earth to let us know when it's time to begin our day and when it's time to end our day.
Ricky is talking about circadian rhythm. It's the body's natural regulator for sleep and wake cycles based on a 24-hour schedule. Those 16 sunrises and sunsets he mentioned can cause circadian misalignment and sleep deficiencies during long-duration spaceflight. The hazards of lost sleep can range from poor attention at school to on-the-job errors to long-term sleep loss, even chronic disease. Sleep is super important. Hey Ricky, what are you doing on the space station to get some sleep?
Well, here in space, we kind of have to do it artificially. So we have these nice crew quarters. It's about the size of a refrigerator. It's very quiet. The space station can be a little noisy, but it's very quiet in here. And we can control light with a light switch. If we are just middle of the day, we have a light like you're seeing right now, which is just this kind of standard lighting. It's getting close to the end of the evening. You want to dim the light a little bit, kind of for the end of the evening. Or if you're going to be up late and you need to keep awake, we have a really bright light setting. The other thing we have is off. You see how dark it got. Another challenge sleeping on the International Space Station, sleeping in microgravity is really nice because you can just float and stretch out and it's really comfortable. The problem is with the air currents in the International Space Station, you could very well float into a piece of hardware and hit your head, or worse yet, even break something. So we got our sleeping bag here, just almost like a sleeping bag on Earth. But as you can see, we have bungee cords that help hold us up against the wall, so I almost sleep standing up. And also, I do have a pillow. It's just a bag full of clothes, but I actually keep it up on the top of my head because I'm a little tall. In the crew quarters, I tend to hit my head on the ceiling when I'm sleeping. So I got my sleeping bag here. I got my bungee cords to hold me in. And then when it's time to go to bed, it's quite easy. Just unzip the sleeping bag, climb on under the bungee cord, climb into the sleeping bag, make sure you're nice and secure, zip yourself up, plan on getting a good night's sleep so I have good reaction times, my cognitive ability is what it should be, and that I'm not grumpy in the morning. So with that, I'm all set. Good night from the ISS.
The International Space Station's laboratory modules support experiments in a number of scientific disciplines. For example, the Flame Design experiment is looking into the quantity of soot produced under different burning conditions. Now, that could generate data that leads to the creation of new burners that are more efficient and less polluting. Scientists are also using the International Space Station to develop robots that could help with simple tasks so the astronauts have more time for, well, things only astronauts can do. Astronaut Chris Cassidy gave us a look at his work with 3 flying robots being developed by NASA's Ames Research Center.
The unique thing about this particular one on the right docking station, it goes in upside down. Went and got some snacks, some nuts and some hot chocolate. So the scientific team is in California, the payload control center is in Huntsville, and of course I'm here. So we've got 3 different locations, we're all working together.
The International Space Station is well known as an orbiting laboratory, but its mission also includes preparing us for future exploration, improving life on orbit, and encouraging the commercialization of space. In that area, one of its great success stories is a product called Cubesats.
Think of the International Space Station, and most likely you imagine an orbiting laboratory where scientists observe how plants, materials, and humans react to microgravity conditions. But during the past decade, the station has also served a very different role, that of being a business incubator. And this is one of its star products, the Cubesat. The Cubesat is one of many types of satellites now found in space. It is one of the smallest. One unit is a compact 10 by 10 by 10 centimeter cube and is commonly referred to as 1U. And it can be deployed for a fraction of what its larger cousins cost. Early small satellites launched from the station were literally thrown into space by Russian cosmonauts. In 2012, crew members began utilizing the airlock in the Japanese Kibo module to deploy up to 6U of Cubesats per airlock cycle. And not long after, the American company NanoRacks built and began operating an even more robust deployer on the station, capable of launching up to 48U per cycle. That changed everything. Mike Reed is the manager of Space Station Business and Economic Development at Johnson Space Center. He notes how one of NanoRacks' first customers, Planet, leveraged the new launch capabilities aboard the space station. Planet wanted to take high-resolution photos of Earth. While you can take pictures from the space station, your coverage is limited by the station's orbit. With multiple Cubesats, however, you can position them to cover almost any point on Earth. In a relatively short time, Planet deployed several generations of Cubesats from the space station, proving the viability of their technology approach and their business model. With these successes, Planet quickly expanded to an operational fleet of over 150 satellites deployed using commercial launch providers. This fleet gives them the ability to image the entire Earth's landmass every day. Planet's imagery is now in high demand by companies and governments who use this big data in the fields of agriculture, forestry and land use, mapping, and disaster response. Within a decade, the company has grown from a true startup to employing nearly 500 people. Multiple companies are now building small launch vehicles specifically to deploy Cubesats and other small satellites into low Earth orbit, for use in a variety of ways for companies as well as students and nonprofit organizations. Cubesats are being used to provide internet services to even the most remote regions of the planet. They're helping build better weather and climate models to improve weather forecasting. They're enabling text messaging for your phone around the globe, even without a cell signal. Cubesats are also leaving the planet. The first and second interplanetary Cubesats accompanied NASA's InSight lander on its recent mission to Mars, relaying data about the spacecraft as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Some Cubesat missions will serve as pathfinders to help map the way for the Artemis missions to the Moon. And 13 Cubesats will launch on the first mission, Artemis 1. Reed concludes with this observation. Today, more and more, a single large and expensive satellite is being replaced by one of the newest members of the satellite portfolio, a flock of small, less expensive, yet very powerful Cubesats. Affordable access to space has broadened the station's capabilities in a way that, frankly, was never envisioned. However, that access has enabled Cubesats to become a sustained commercial success, contributing significantly to the growing space marketplace. For more science and research from the International Space Station, go to www.nasa.gov/ISS-science. To discover more about the space on, around, and beyond our planet, visit science.nasa.gov.
Crew members on the International Space Station spend some of their time sharing the experience of spaceflight with those of us who are stuck on the ground. Think of live interviews with groups of school kids. But then there are times that they find other ways to connect, like the time one station crew member was looking at a natural disaster unfold on the Earth right below him and found a way to help.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island. One official saying the island is destroyed.
Hours with winds and rain and didn't stop.
Power lines are down. Streets are impassable. Many roads are flooded.
High winds uprooting trees, overturning cars, and turning buildings into piles of twisted metal.
It is something that will change Puerto Rico forever.
We had no water, no food, no gasoline, no communication at all.
Not knowing where my next meal will come from, it hasn't been easy.
After Hurricane Maria, everything was gray, all the plants were dead. Hurricane Maria took the color away from us.
I am sure that these children will not be the same. They will not be the same. They are still struggling and trying to recover from this.
My name is Joe Acaba. I'm a NASA astronaut of Puerto Rican descent. I was about a week into my mission on the International Space Station. Hurricane Maria was forming up, and from there, if you looked out the window, Maria took up a big chunk of what we could see. It was going to cover the entire island. After the hurricane, their power grid was pretty much taken out. You just couldn't see the island anymore. The hurricane, I think, had a huge impact on, the island as a whole, but especially the kids.
Joe Acaba was our hero, and we need something positive. The students need something positive.
We wanted to pull through, forget all that happened, and lift up our spirits and lift off the island.
So I knew I couldn't do much from up on the International Space Station, but I did want to connect with the students to show them that there is hope and that there are people out there that care about them.
NASA has the STEM station, which allows the students and teachers to talk to the astronaut in the space station.
It's making that connection so that maybe, they become more interested and we can inspire them more to study the STEM fields.
So we were able to establish and coordinate with NASA one of these video conferences. Thousands of students from different parts of the island watching the video conference with the space station, talking to Joe.
This is Joe aboard the International Space Station. I have you loud and clear.
How do you compare?
What is the most impressive view?
How did Puerto Rico look?
Are astronauts allowed to visit?
What is the minimum number of?
It was awesome because, as soon as it came up, you could hear people clapping, people were excited. So even though I couldn't see them, I could feel them, and that was pretty neat.
It was amazing. He called from the International Space Station to see how Puerto Rico was doing, and that means a lot for us, a lot.
In May of 2018, I was able to go back to the island, my first time since the hurricane. It was a great opportunity to get out and kind of come full circle with those students, to go and see them in person and, kind of reiterate how important they are, and just to give them a little bit more hope because there's still a long way to go on the island.
He's a hero for us. Kids love him, and everybody loves him here. Joe Acaba is the role model that we need at this time.
I want to be like him. I want to go far, and I want to be an example for little kids when I'm older.
Not only is the International Space Station a great tool for scientific research and exploration, but for students from Puerto Rico in particular, I think that having that video conference with them, it did provide some hope. It did provide some inspiration, and so it's just one of the benefits that we get from the International Space Station.
Not every International Space Station crew member has a chance to have such a direct impact on folks on Earth, but each of them does get the chance to share the journey when they answer a question that all of us Earthlings ask them. What did it feel like when you saw the Earth from space? For former astronaut Alvin Drew, it was a reminder that we need to keep pushing the boundaries of exploration.
How is the quality of the TV?
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
I'm in first grade, and I'm watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin dancing around like every other kid who's out there watching this. They want to go do this. This is the coolest thing ever. And I remember asking my dad, what kind of job do I need to have growing up that I can make enough money that I can go fly to the moon? And he goes, well, there's a job out there called being an astronaut, and if you are that, they will pay you to go to the moon. They're going to pay me to go to the moon. That's it. I've made my career decision. I'm going to go be an astronaut. I did not think the experience of spaceflight would change me. I hear about these people going having this overview effect, and they come back and what am I going to go experience out there that's going to change who I am? But it made me think about a lot of things. And so for the first part, we all had that part where you're seeing the Earth and you see yourself next to the Earth and you feel very tiny next to the Earth. Then you turn the other way and the Earth seems very tiny compared to the cosmos out there. And so you feel like you're 2 orders of magnitude down in terms of, the size of things out there. All of life, all of the history of life, all of your life and everybody you know is in this little tiny membrane of air that sits on top of this planet. And beyond that membrane of air is this abyss of space. It's just, there's nothing life-giving about it. And that's it. That's all that separates you. And it makes you feel like we're in a very tiny spot out here. As big as the Earth seems, it seems suddenly very, very finite. One of the things that got me one day, we had some time off, and I wanted to go get some pictures of items that I'd flown up for other people out there. And so I get out there and I crank open all the different panels on the cupola window, and just by dumb luck, we were flying down the spine of New Zealand. So you've got this emerald green island with all the mountains, and you've got the ocean out there as the backdrop for all these photos. And it almost made me forget to take the pictures because I was too busy gawking at New Zealand out of the cupola as we went over it. Going on my very first spacewalk, I looked down, and that was my first mistake because this was the Amazon rainforest beneath me. It's February, I guess it's summertime in the southern hemisphere, so I could see all the way down to the river itself and all the dark green lush jungles, the brown river and all the estuaries flowing into it. I can see this muddy delta going out into the Atlantic Ocean, and I could see the gray and snow-capped peaks of the Andes Mountains all out to the west. And so despite my best intentions, Mother Nature was saying, "You will not ignore me, you must pay attention." And I'm just sitting there just gobsmacked looking at this thing and trying hard to tear myself away. Fortunately, my lead spacewalker, Steve, he just sat there and said, "Just take your time and take the scene, and you will never see something like this again, ever, so you might as well get the experience now." My advice for humanity is, this is a great place to start, but don't stick around here very long. We have opportunities out there. I forget who it was who said, if humankind was meant to explore the universe, God would have given us a moon. We need to take advantage of that, use that as a leaping pad to get off into other places. Someday we're going to need to be from space and not going out there, simply going into it.
If you want another look at any of the stories you saw today, you can always find them on YouTube and Facebook. You will also find lots of other great features on a wide variety of NASA topics at both of those locations, so be sure to look around. And if you're looking for good conversation about human spaceflight, check out Houston, We Have a Podcast, a weekly show talking to folks involved in all areas of space exploration. Today, we get another lesson on the plans for the upcoming flights of the Artemis program, as Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson explains what the Exploration Ground Systems team has been doing to get the Kennedy Space Center and the folks who work there ready to get the first Artemis flights off the pad. And it includes what they've done to the pad. Go to nasa.gov/podcasts for this week's episode, all the previous episodes, the full library of all the NASA podcasts, which are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud.